been a couple of weeks now since we've done something like that, but we are back to it. I'm sure there's no shortage of it out there, and I am happy to raise awareness around players like this because I think the fundamental issue here is that they are trying to circumvent a system that was put in place to alert you to their behavior. So ask yourself a basic question. Would you want to play with somebody who is willing to do this socially? Even if you don't mind, at least you have the information. Let's get right to the review. Today we're going to be taking a look at a Floodgate 13, and I think a lot of the hallmarks of what we have seen so far as predictors are present pretty quickly. We have someone who clearly thinks that they are better than the group they are in, despite being the same score. I even took a look at this guy's radar arrow because you would think that this guy's behavior is the behavior of somebody who believes that they are way better than the key level that they're at, and I see no evidence of it. But anyway, we are going to lust on the first pull, so that's a good start. I think the reason that that might happen in this run is if you take a look at the DPS chart, you're going to see a unfortunate situation unfolding here. We basically have one damage dealer doing like 40% of the group's overall DPS. Certainly between him and the Warlock, they're doing a vast majority of the DPS. Now, that never actually gets brought up, but this is a key factor in, I think, the ego battle that unfolds in keys, especially kind of like, I mean, this is certainly not a low key, but it's like a key that's like still at this point, if you're doing a 13 this late in the season, like, yeah, you're a little step behind here, right? There's like a weird ego thing where people are unable to say like, well, I'm a big part of the reason that I'm at this level and I deserve to be at this level, and those around me also deserve to be at this level. Instead, they say everybody around me is holding me back. You guys are all below me, and I think that's the mentality that you're going to see unfold here as we watch this develop. Anyway, we are going to have our first death, and it's ironically going to be this guy. I don't understand how he dies. Let's try to take a better look at it. We come down from like breaking that box or whatever like that, and as we aggro this stuff, he just gets hit. Like, it looks like twice really fast. Like, I don't know if it's threat, I don't know if it's just wombo combo or what, but he just gets hit by two things and dies. I assume it's a threat thing, but other than that, I don't know how you die that quick into the pack. But anyway, that's going to be our first death of the dungeon. Along the way, you're going to see some things that I think can be described as routing issues, although I'm not entirely sure how or why all of them play out. Initially, I was trying to say that maybe the tank was making strange decisions, but not all of them seem to be fully attributable to the tank. You're going to see it here. I think this is the best example of it. The tank runs across, doesn't seem to stop to aggro anything at all, but we are going to have some stuff aggroed. He just sprints over to this pack, just tanks it where it stands, and then slowly more and more enemies are going to show up. Now, there's a crab. Obviously, that wasn't pulled, but then there's the three divers. Now, I think when we run across the right side of this puddle, it's aggroing it. I don't really see it aggro, but I think that's how it gets aggroed. And then I think conversely, the same thing happens on the left side of it. So the tank manages to skate by, but then they kind of open up in a way that that left side is a bomb. Like, it's impossible to not aggro it, I feel like. Having to run to the left side or the right side is like a guaranteeing threat somewhere. And I think this is a routing issue, honestly. Like, this is why we pulled the divers in my route there, because you're going to aggro something there, I think. So you have to clear a way for players to walk in that situation where they pat in. But anyway, yeah, we are going to fight this pack seemingly without the tank's consent, kind of struggling to keep them all together as well. It feels like they're kind of just separate. Like, we got like about a 5-yard gap in between the packs, and then we're just going to keep dragging them, which I think it's like a good idea because you want to clear the bombs, but I do think we're dragging them a little bit too much. Like, the too much movement is happening on this, and we are going to get too close to the next pack. So let's watch this unfold again. One really cool thing about how this plays out, this pack, is this guy will jump to wherever the tank is. The architect will build the scaffolding wherever the tank is. So you should try to leverage this for your own benefit. Now, again, I think it is possible that the tank is overwhelmed by the fact that the divers have pulled, and he is confused on how to handle the bombs while this pack is going on. He just kind of starts exactly where it stands, which is already kind of close to the next pack, to be honest. That's why I was saying you want to try to pull it backwards a little bit, and then just keeps moving backwards further and further behind where the pack started. And presumably it's just going to be his social aggro that grabs this, because I don't see any spells or anything like that. All of a sudden this pack aggroes. So we're now fighting two architects. One's just off in the corner. That thing's not getting touched, and we are going to wipe here. We're going to have the bombs and a lot of rooting going out. I mean, this is definitely an error. This is an error in multiple ways. It looks like we pulled two separate packs that we were not intending to pull. So of course, this is what I meant, where you could kind of see the hallmarks unfolding here. We have a mistake that happens probably from the whole group's perspective. I think it can be blamed on the tank, but I do think at that point you're overwhelmed by the situation and more errors follow. The hunter, who had no agency over that, maybe is even the one who pulled it but has no control over that situation, is now lashing out over that lack of control and blaming the tank for this, saying 2 roots with 9 kicks makes sense. I mean, you don't have 9 kicks. I don't know what he's even saying there. I assume he's talking about the fact that the architect pack, they root you and then the 9 kicks are what? Like the bomb? We're trying to disrupt the bomb cast? Is that what he's saying? I have no idea. But again, a comment like that is a huge red flag for me, because this person is basically saying like, I'm unhappy with what you did. I don't understand anything about how it happened, because clearly if he did, he would comment on the fact that there was 2 packs aggroed seemingly by accident. Doesn't comment on that, right? Just immediately looking for a scapegoat for this failure. We are going to have no more issues. The only actual issue in the dungeon up until right now was the fact that we have a hunter doing a lot of DPS. He's maybe already died too many times for his liking, and he's blaming somebody else for this. Otherwise, I think it's probably standard fare for 13. Now, this is interesting because we come out of this boss. Bloodlust has been available for a long time, and it's important to note that the tank asked for Bloodlust at a specific time. He asked the hunter to Bloodlust the first pack. So now Bloodlust is up. You want to make good uses of this Bloodlust, and in fact, they were actually in a position where they could have lusted 4 times. I don't think anybody is considering this anymore, but it was something I was heavily talking about in the past. The thing about Bloodlust being up, especially if you're not going to try to get 4 Bloodlust in here, is that people are waiting, chomping at the bit to benefit from it. So they expect certain things to occur, and this is not it. All right, this going and fighting trash right now is not what anybody is expecting when Bloodlust is available. Like, you know, if you ask for Bloodlust in the first pack and then you go to keys a quick few seconds, that indicates that you're trying to Bloodlust Big Mother. And instead of heading there, the tank is now going to take a diversion, and we're going to fight all of these mobs. I have no idea why. Again, as we run in, we aggro a crab. I'm not really sure why you would do this, to be honest. Like, is anybody doing this? I don't know what the benefit of this is now versus later. It just seems like it's opening the door for distraction. It's not a real issue. Like, you got to fight it eventually, but it seems slower to run through this area twice instead of once. But nothing ever gets said about it. No actual problems arise from it. And again, instead of going to the boss, which was now, the Bloodlust has been up for like 5 full minutes at this point. So instead of going to the boss, we're now going to go for even more trash. And now it's time for the boss. We come up this way, kind of an awkward entry into the fight. Not everybody was there when we pulled the boss. I prefer Bloodlust on the pull here. I think it's the right choice because people, again, are chomping at the bit to use offensive CDs. And I think you can benefit Bloodlust heavily during the burn phase. But I think from your average pug perspective, this makes the fight easier. We've seen like 5 to 6 minute versions of this fight, and it's pretty much the key over. So I just want to really make things clear though, because as we see, we lust early. So he lust before the jumpstart. And as you see, the shield came up. So anyway, jumpstart comes up, and then we make a comment about lust. Pause it right now. They Bloodlust at 1512 on the dungeon. Okay, now I'm going to pause it when the druid comments. This is the healer. There is the comment. So 1512 was the Bloodlust. 1459 is the comment asking for Bloodlust. Just trying to think of it from the perspective of this person. I think this is, again, like the ego thing. Like, you didn't see I Bloodlusted, lol. You know what I mean? Because he's going to go on to insult both the tank and the healer. Now we're going to do something that probably gets done a lot. The tank's just going to leave somebody to deal with the box. He's going to run off. I do this all the time, to be honest. But the warlock is spam pinging about it. I don't know why. I'm not sure if he thinks he can't be done or something like that. But the druid is going to go back and do it as the tank actually going to bring these mobs down, which is kind of interesting. So the druid does get that box like opened or broken or whatever you want to say, and we're going to continue on with the trash. We're going to pull this pack, and we're immediately going to have some issues here, and this is ultimately going to be the defining moment in the key. But we're going to have the RPGG go out, just not really stopping this thing going on constantly, and the healer is somehow going to die to it. He's going to get hit by it there. And now instead of releasing, which, you know, is kind of crazy because you can see the release stone on the screen, the guy's just going to sit there dead, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy DCs or lags here or something like that, because to not release there doesn't really make any sense. But he is actually going to get a battle res here, comes back up, and we just basically totally waste that battle res because as soon as he gets back up, everybody's dead again. And now the hunter's going off, right? This is the beginning of the end for this group. He says release is right next to us, lol. And yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's on the screen. We just talked about this from a clip from my stream a couple weeks ago. It's pretty weird when we just use battle reses when we're standing right next to a release point. But anyway, the tank and the healer are now getting kind of targeted by this hunter. He says literally this tank and healer are lost, lol, and then presumably does a vote to disband. Hopefully you can see that behind the camera. The vote to disband is, of course, not going to pass. Now it's going to be one of these elongated ones. You see it? It's still there. Somebody's just not voting. Not sure who wouldn't be voting, but in my head, I'm thinking maybe it is the druid, and maybe it is the druid being AFK or lagging or something like I was saying. But the funny part about all this is the tank is down there waiting to continue. There's no more trash, don't forget. He's just down there waiting to do the boss, but nobody does the box. So the group is going to fail to actually abandon the instance, and the group is also going to fail to progress the dungeon because nobody clicks the box. Now at this point, everybody but the hunter are down here. The hunter obviously is trying to quit the dungeon, so they're not going to click it, but we just don't click it. Look at the warlock just like running up to the gate. He's like, what's going on here? But yeah, the vote to abandon instance was unsuccessful. And then the druid comments, why? ... Tank says double question mark. And then by the way, watch the druid here. The druid is now going to go back up to click the box. I don't know if that's what they were commenting on. I have no idea. But anyway, they're going to have to run all the way around. The hunter's going to say in response to let's go, we still have a few minutes or something. He says no time. It's not possible. Only one DPS is doing enough to carry mistakes. You don't say it that way. Like, are you enough to carry the DPS and I'm good enough to carry this group? Or are you saying that everybody else sucks? I don't really get it. The warlock says the vote failed. Let's go, question mark. Still nobody clicked the box. I don't like, what are you saying? Let's go. There's no boss here. We can't fight the boss. The druid says, well, then we can't play with you, hunter god, with the smile. And the hunter says, we can AFK until it times out, then you can leave. So he's done this before. He's got a strategy in his head. I do think this is a huge issue with the system and that they need to change this, because if the group is voting to disband late in a key and it fails, like I think especially if it's been looked at as a timer is over, but the group wants to continue anyway, then that should not be allowed. Like you shouldn't be able to fail a vote when the timer's definitely over and then just wait it out and leave anyway. Like the vote should continue after that. Oh, here's some funny stuff that gets mentioned. He says, you have a shot to be featured on One Azeroth TV. More than a shot. And the hunter is going to reply to that saying, sounds mid. No, thank you. Well, unfortunately, I don't accept your thanks. Warlock's going to say, you can ignore me, hunter. You are on mine for blocking everyone from even playing. We voted. Which I totally respect, but I just don't really understand what we're doing here. Like, how, in what way is he blocked? You can continue with 4 people. Just somebody go click the fucking box. Am I missing something here? I don't know if the hunter is somehow preventing them from clicking it. I have no idea what's actually going on here. The hunter is then going to reply to that in a really weird way. He says, I can do whatever I want. You sound 12 and lost. What? And that's the problem, I think, though, at the end of the day, is Blizzard is allowing this person to think that they can do whatever they want. It's pretty clear to me that the reason that they added the vote to disband thing is it's supposed to be a vote. If you don't agree with the vote, then you have to leave the group. That's it. There isn't any other way to rationalize it. The druid says, you sound full of yourself, and the tank says, so everyone in this dungeon is lost except for this god hunter. Got it. The hunter says, ask me if I care. Then he says, well, you mismanaged lust with pulls. You did about 10 of them wrong, which is that's ridiculous to say that. He says, you pulled 2 roots with 4 lasers and 4 harpoons. Like the fuck. Meanwhile, the druid says, I am sorry, but you come off as really aggressive and mad. And all of these comments are just like basic, like, oh, we're just arguing to argue at this point. But I think it's really important to recognize that this hunter has no idea why they actually failed. The guy says, you mismanaged lust with pulls. You did about 10 of them wrong. But as we showed, there was no way they were going to get 4 lusts in without heavy communication. Like, it could have been done. They were in a position to do it, and they didn't do it. The hunter chose not to bloodlust, so obviously he didn't expect to try to get 4 lusts in. So no, they actually didn't mismanage lusts. The guy just pulled in a way that was suboptimal, and like I was explaining, in the pug world, that can matter, and this is the result of that. This is why it matters. It doesn't actually matter for your success rate, it matters for your socialization. The only real mismanagement of lust, in my opinion, was him not lusting on the pull of the boss. No discussion about that, to be fair, but I do think that the bloodlust on the pull is far more functional. But anyway, the hunter says, I wasted my time in this dungeon carrying the DPS for people not to understand 6-month-old content. He doesn't seem to understand that the packs that they wiped to were not pulled intentionally, and I honestly am not convinced that it's not his mistake, because it could have been anybody. The druid says, well, you are the god player, so why complain? Responding to the fact that the hunter says, I can't carry this group, or I'm the only one doing enough DPS to carry the group, but I guess I'm not good enough to carry the group. That's your title, not mine. No, you're the one who brought up carrying the group. The hunter says, like I said, I'll do what I want. One more comment, he says, oh wow, how cool. Shall I give you a pat on the back and thank God? The weirdest conversations going on here. Now, I think it's really funny because they are again going to do another vote to disband here with 17 seconds left. I'm not really sure why, but if you don't know, you can actually leave as soon as this timer is over. I was really hoping it was going to be different, but it doesn't seem to be that way. And the group leaves without incident after that. So up to you guys how you feel about that. Like I said, I just want to present this evidence because it's pretty clear that this person is trying to circumvent the actual systems that are in place here. I don't really know how you fix this outside of just this social policing of it, because the system is already in place to encourage people to care about the group group they're in, and they still don't. And I'm sure from many people's perspective, the hunter is blaming the tank and the druid for valid things. But that's not the situation here. The situation is that you joined a group, the group wants to continue, and you don't. So guess what? You're not part of the fucking group anymore. So leave the group. That's it. That's the only issue here. If you don't want to be in the group, then leave the group. That's the end of the story from my perspective. The person won't do it because they're trying to game a system. I look at this as cheating because obviously they won't leave the dungeon because they believe it gives them some competitive disadvantage to have that lever mark. As such, that's indicative that they are willingly cheating a system. So here we are. Thanks for watching. If you guys submit me stuff like this, please let me know that it's stuff like this. A lot of this stuff gets submitted, I think, and they're just like nondescript. Like they don't tell me that somebody is trying to engage in the hostage situation. Let me know that this is the case, and I will make a video on this as often as possible because I truly believe this is our biggest issue in the pug world right now. But thank you guys for watching. We will see you guys in the next video.